So today's video is about 3 ways to get started.
We all have a satisfaction associated with doing something that somebody finds useful.
Often when we're trying to do something, create a new business or get to a goal or, improve our lives in some way, we don't move forward with it because we don't know where to start. The inertia, overcoming the inertia of starting. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, well, I was afraid of it, or I didn't know how to do it, or, whatever the description is, right? But after I finally started, it wasn't so bad. And I've heard that, thousands of times, and I'm sure you have too. You've probably experienced that, where you have been daunted, put off, procrastinated, afraid of, doing something, and after you get started, it's not as bad as you thought, and often that's motivation to get something done. What I want to talk about today, in terms of how to transform our lives, is to bypass that whole mess of being afraid to start or not knowing what to do, etc., etc. I've got 3 ways, and there are more, but here's 3 ways to get started when you're having trouble getting started. The first way is look at the size. The size of the project is often a barrier. You look at, I'm going to start a business. I remember feeling like when I was going to put my first products online many years ago, just the sheer number of things I had to do was terrifying. Not terrifying, but, overwhelming. Websites and creating the product and funnels and payment engines and emails for nurture and autoresponders, and just all of the pieces were really overwhelming, at least for me. So the first thing about getting started is to take a small piece. We've all heard the saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and of course it does. A single step's not enough, but you never go anywhere without that first step. So one way to get started is to take a look at the project and see what makes sense to do first. Take a small bite and say, I can do that. Now, there's a couple of pitfalls in that. Every project has things that we like to do and things that we don't like to do or that are less fun. Some parts are a little bit drudgery and other parts that are the sort of the cream, the center, the jelly-filled donut, right? The good stuff. So one thing that people do is they say, oh, I'm going to start, and then they go jump into some part of the project that's fun. Maybe they're not even doing it in a way that actually will be useful, but they make themselves feel good by saying, I'm actually doing something because I'm busy, and they're doing a piece that they perceive as fun. And it turns out, without having thought it through or whatever they did may or may not be useful later. So that's not what I mean. Don't just go cherry pick the fun parts of a project and go do that, and then you're left with not only all the other parts you imagined to start with that were not fun, which may or may not be true because you haven't done them yet, but you also don't even have any idea how to connect them all and how to use best what you've done. So what I mean by break it down into small pieces is, what's the first thing that makes sense to do? When I first created that product, the first thing that made sense to do is figure out, what exactly was I going to provide? For me, my first digital online product was a meditation course. I've been a meditation practitioner for some 43 years, and started when I was about 17, and I'm 61, so 44 years. So I could have gone and built a website. I could have gone and paid somebody to build a website or worry about payment engines or anything else. But the first thing that made sense to do was figure out exactly what this thing that I was going to do looked like. What was I going to do for people? So for me, it came down to deciding, okay, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to help people understand the benefits to them, what they really get out of learning to adopt a meditation practice, and then I was going to show them how to do it. So that was it. This is what meditation does for you. Here's how to do it. And starting from that, then I began saying, okay, what is it that I need to say or do or research or show about the benefits, and then how to do it and so forth. So by breaking it down into the little pieces, exactly what am I going to do? Then the next piece, of course, what will it look like? And I decided eventually to write the 5 books and the videos that I did and everything else. So that's key number 1. Break it down into small pieces and pick the first one that makes sense to do now. The second way to get started is to get some help. And what I mean by that is I have a client right now who has said to me regularly that if they have a friend or me as a coach or something, someone bugging them all the time, and they use the word bugging, then they can, get busy and get things done. So there's 2 aspects to that. One, if we're not even motivated enough to do anything at all without someone hassling us, you have to stop and ask yourself if you actually want the thing that you've talked about. But let's set that aside for just a minute and say, okay, we do tend to keep promises that we make to others way more than we keep promises to ourselves. So if you make a promise to someone else, create some kind of accountability. I will have these 3 emails written before we go to the store or before we go out tonight or whatever. And with a friend, whatever it is, create some accountability, because it's been demonstrated over and over again, we're way more likely not to fail and disappoint someone we've made a commitment to. So the second thing to do is find somebody that will, work with you as your accountability element, so you can just start on that small piece. I'll have this much of it done today. Okay, so getting some help in terms of getting that first switch started, that first, turn on the engine of your project. The third thing that helps me get started is a reward. So writing like a sequence of 15 or 20 or 30 emails can be time consuming. If you haven't done it very much, it might feel daunting and it might feel like it's no fun. And writing 1 a day for a month probably isn't going to meet your needs for timeliness if you're trying to run a business and you're trying to get it started with an autoresponder and stuff like that. So what I do is I create a reward. I say, well, I don't really love this writing of 30 emails, but I remember 2 things. One, I'm doing it because I really believe in this product and I really want to help someone with what I have. I really believe it will, and I think helping them understand that through these emails is a good idea. The thing that really turns the crank for me is the reward. So as soon as I get these 30 emails written, then I'm going to something and creating a reward with a reward for myself. That's something I really want. Now, if you say I'm going to do a little bit of work and then take a month-long vacation to Bali, you're going to run out of money probably, and your project still will never get done. But if the reward is something you want, but it's commensurate with the work that you did, then that's a really good motivator. So let's review really quickly 3 things. Break it down into a small piece that doesn't feel daunting, that you can do right. Pick the one that makes sense to do first and do that, and then celebrate, that's that victory. Number 2, create some kind of accountability where you've made a promise to someone else to finish some piece in a given period of time, and then keep that promise. And then you learn to get in the habit of, I said it, I did it, I said it, I did it, I said it, I did it. And the third is create a meaningful but reasonable reward, so it's not, outlandish. It loses its effectiveness when we do that. But create a reasonable reward and then go to work and then reward yourself appropriately. So there's 3 ways to get a project started. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching the videos. Take this opportunity, leave a comment, subscribe most of all, and don't forget to spread the word about this channel.